Greetings and welcome to the Warhammer 40,000 kill team video, where today I'm going over the updated rules for the Hernkyn Yaegir kill team. But before we go into things, thanks goes to Games Workshop providing these to review, and please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's video. What do you think of the changes to the Hernkyn Yaegirs? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out for free in the episode description below, an affiliate link at Element Games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But yeah, go in and go over the updated rules of the Hernkyn Yaegir. Remember, the audio is correct. The images may not be because they're written in a more abridged form because I'm not typing out all their text. And there might be some minor errors, but everything I'm speaking of is correct because I have the correct rules. I just can't show them. So please bear that in mind. You will have to listen along. I've tried to make it as clear as possible. It's just I've been typing everything up. But with that all out of the way, let's get on with the review. So for the roster, your archetypes are still Infiltration and Seek and Destroy, which is a decent mix. It's not too bad, but it's unchanged from last time. You still need to take your Thane as a leader who has a fixed profile, and then you've got 9 other operatives, so you are a 10 operative kill team. You can select the Bladekin, Bombast, Gunner, Iron Break, Riflekin, Tracker, and then a Warrior with either a bolt gun and, well, bolt revolver and plasma knife, or bolt, shotgun, and fists. So I'll get into roster selection later, but otherwise, pretty much all of that has been unchanged. For the faction rules, it's mostly unchanged, but there's some slight changes with resourceful points. So in the ready step of each phase after the first, so you can't do it turning point 1, you gain resourceful points determined by the number of friendly operatives in the kill zone that aren't within control range of enemy operatives. So that's a big change there, because before it used to be they just had to be on the kill zone, but we'll get into that in a minute. At the end of each turning point, discard your resourceful points. So if you have 6 or more operatives, you get 2 resourceful points. If you have 3 to 5, you gain 1. And if you have 0 to 2, you have 0. Whenever a Hernkyn Yaegir operative that isn't in control range of enemy operatives is activated, you can spend 1 of your resourceful points to, until the end of their activation, give them +1 APL, or heal them for D3 +1 lost wounds. So there's actually a big change, because if you had 5 operatives that had a mixture, let's say 2 operatives were out of action, they'd be incapacitated, and then 3 operatives were now in control range of other enemy operatives, you would actually only generate 1 resourceful point in that situation, despite having 6 operatives on the kill zone. So resourceful points have actually been kind of nerfed, which people will easily miss. So that's a big change there. Then you've got Dauntless Explorers. So as a strategic gambit in the first turning point, so turning point 1, each friendly operative wholly within your drop zone can immediately perform a free reposition action. Each that does so must end that move wholly within 4 inches of your drop zone. So to counteract that kind of big nerf, everyone can just do a free resource, like a free reposition action, which is amazing. It means you don't need to select the reposition scouting action. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but it's not really needed. You just get this for free, and before it used to be 3 operatives and they were locked into a conceal order. Now, well, and they couldn't even fight or shoot. This time, your whole team can do it, so that's 10 operatives, and they can still change their order and fight and shoot. So it's now easier for the opponent to deny you resourceful tokens or resourceful points, but you're way more mobile now. This team is actually surprisingly fast. So I like those changes, but you have to remember the clause about not being able to generate resourceful points at the start of the turning point if you have operatives in control range as well. And this no longer is like, and it just automatically happens. So it isn't like a strategic gambit. The only thing that is that free move turning point 1. First strategy ploys, you have hidden engagement. Whenever a friendly operative is shooting, if it's in cover from the target's perspective, that friendly operative's weapons have the balanced weapon rule. Note that your opponent still determines the targeting lines for this, i.e. they decide the point at which their operative's bases for targeting lines are drawn from. So effectively, if you're in cover when you're shooting enemy operatives, you gain balanced. It's okay, but you never really use this too much. It's very static and doesn't generally fit the Hernkyn Yaegir playstyle. Then you've got Masterful Blade Work. So whenever a friendly operative is fighting or has a conceal order and is retaliating, its weapons have the balanced weapon rule. So this is actually generally quite good considering how plasma knives work now. But basically, if you're charging and fighting, you have balanced. But if you're being fought and you have a conceal order, you have balanced as well. So generally really good, popped from turning point 2 onwards. Then you have tough survivalists. The first time an attack dice inflicts damage on each friendly operative during the turning point in the roll attack dice step, you can halve that damage, rounding up to a minimum of 2. So this is still really, really good, unchanged. The only thing that's changed here is now it's the first attack dice resolved. So your opponent can just, like, especially in melee, strike you with a normal, then like strike you with a crit to kill you. So it's been changed in that regard. But it's still very, very good damage negation that you're always playing effectively every turning point from turning point 2. Then you have in position. Whenever a friendly operative has a conceal order and is in cover, it cannot be selected as a valid target, taking precedence over all other roles such as vantage. So it's effectively super conceal. So the interesting thing is, because of the reduced number of command points you get, you're generally probably popping this turning point 1, depending how you're moving up the board. So you're probably taking the scouting option that gives you the free strategic ploy, which is likely in position. Because in position is generally really, really good turning point 1, not so great. It's like situational turning point 2, and then you generally don't need it after. So because of now you're playing with free CP at turning point 1 instead of 4, you probably want to stockpile like that scouting option, as I said, for a free in position turning point 1. For firefight ploys, you have sturdy, so use this firefight ploy when an operative is shooting a friendly operative. When you collect your defense dice, change the attacker's retained critical successes to normal successes, but you don't negate any critical rolls they've triggered, such as piercing crits. So it's basically the same as what the Hernkyn salvagers have. It's really good. For example, let's say your opponent only rolls 3 crits, and that might kill your operative. So then you can just spend a CP to make those all normal successes, well, before you roll your defense dice. But because you only have a 4-up save, it's not that great, and it doesn't turn off critical rolls. For example, if they've got devastating on a crit or piercing on a crit, so it's just okay. Then you've got bonds that bind. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly operative is activated. Select one other friendly operative visible and within 3 inches of that operative. When that first friendly operative is expended, you can activate that other friendly operative before your opponent activates. When that other operative is expended, your opponent activates as normal. So it's just a CP for dual activation. Neither operative can be the bombast operative if the Rotlock negotiation strategic gambit has been used as turning point. So if you use the Pistolier's special ability, you can't group activate with him. But otherwise, this is a great ploy, especially going into the start of turning point 2. Then you've got no kin left behind. Use this firefight ploy when a friendly operative is incapacitated. Before that operative is removed from the kill zone, remove one of your fallen kin markers from the kill zone if there are any, then place it within that operative's control range. That operative is then removed from the kill zone as normal. Whenever a friendly Hernkyn Yaegir is fighting within 3 inches of your fallen kin marker and is shooting, fighting or retaliating in the roll attack dice step, you can retain one of your fails as a normal or retain one of your normals as a crit. So this is actually really, really good, especially if you're doing like a throwaway strike, or you're playing a defensive play such as like in Gallow Dark, or you're like fighting off a choke point such as like the middle board. You can just like have an opponent, have a friendly operative charge, then die. But if your opponent stays there, you know they're going to end their activation there. Then you can just pop this, and for the rest of the turning point, whenever your opponent is within 3 inches of that token, you're turning a miss into a hit or a hit into a crit. So really, really good. It actually really combos off what the Hernkyn Yaegirs want to do, which is like secure 2 points and just play it holding 2. So it's very crucial to their play style. Then you've got Stalwart Defense. Use this firefight ploy when an enemy operative ends a move within control range of a friendly operative. Select one other friendly operative visible and within 6 inches of that friendly operative, but that isn't itself in with control range of the enemy operative that charged. That selected operative can then perform a shoot action, and during that action, it can target that enemy operative even though it's within control range of a friendly operative. Other enemy operatives cannot be selected as a valid target. Worsen the hit stat of your weapons by 1, and you cannot select a frag or crack grenade or weapon with the blast or X devastating X weapon rule. So effectively what you do, you have someone near a shotgun. If someone charges someone, you spend a CP to shoot them before they finish their, after they finish their charge action. So it's basically a point blank defense. Really, really useful, especially into melee teams. It's situational, but you just have to remember to remind your opponent of it at the start of the game, because after then it's going to really mess up their charges, but it's really good denial. So you've got really good firefight ploys when it comes to bonds that bind, no kin left behind in stalwart defense. For operatives, you have the Yaegir Thane, so he has 2 APL, a 5-inch move, a 4-up save, and 9 wounds, which is just above the base profile because every other operative has 8 wounds, so your leader has 9. And you will note they're now 5-inch move into the 4, which is really, really good. So your leader has all the weapons seen, so there's a bolt revolver, which is 4 attacks, hitting on freeze, 3-5, range 8. Then also has a bolt shotgun, which is short range and long range. So for the short range, it's 4 attacks, hitting on freeze, 4-4, range 6. And then a long range profile, which is 4 attacks, hitting on 5s, 2-2. And then has a plasma knife, which is 4 attacks, hitting on freeze, 3-5, lethal 5-up. So from these weapon profiles, he's actually lost +1 to hit from his shotgun, which is quite frustrating because before he was great with a shotgun hitting on 2s. But now your Thane shotgun hits on 3s, which makes it quite disappointing, but at least the plasma knife still hits on freeze. Then you've got Veteran Adventurer. In the ready step of each strategy phase after the first, if this operative isn't within control range of enemy operatives, you gain 1 resourceful point. So effectively with your Thane, you gain 3 resourceful points if you have enough required operatives. Then you've got Outright Conviction. The first time this operative would be incapacitated during the battle. If it's not incapacitated and has 1 wound remaining and cannot be incapacitated for the remainder of that action, all remaining attack dice are discarded, including yours if this operative is fighting or retaliating. So he's effectively been unchanged. The only thing that's changed with your leader is it's now shotgun hits on freeze, close range instead of 2s. So still really, really good, just a slight nerf at the cost of going to movement 5. Then you've got your Yaegir Bladekin, who has 8 wounds as the rest of your kill team. It has a throwing plasma knife, which is 4 attacks hitting on freeze, 3-5, range 6, lethal 5-up, limited 1, silent, so unchanged there. Then you've got dual plasma knives, which are 4 attacks hitting on freeze, ceaseless, lethal 5-up, used to be relentless, so ceaseless as the change for the entire edition. Stalker, this operative can perform charge actions while it has a conceal order, so unchanged there, and it has irrepressible hardiness. If this operative is incapacitated during the fight action, you can strike the enemy operative in that sequence with one of your unresolved successes before this operative is removed from the kill zone. So this is really, really good, and a rule I always forget because I can't read and I can't remember stuff. But effectively, if someone one-shots your Bladekin, or even if they're fighting, as long as you have 1 unresolved success, you still strike because you're just that good. So the greatest thing, if you were like 3 crits or 2 crits and a hit, you crit someone, then they kill, like they hit you, you crit them, then they kill you, then you can crit them again to kill them. Or the best thing is it basically stops, like, even if someone's charging you and they know they kill you in 1 hit, they are likely to take 3 to 5 damage back. So your Yaegir Bladekin is unchanged apart from losing Relentless, but still very, very good. Your Yaegir Bombast has Wrought Lock Revolvers, which are 4 attacks, hitting on freeze, 3-5, range 9. It's no longer range red plus blue. Ceaseless and lethal 5-up, so unchanged there. Then it has Fists, which are 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, 2-3. It has Wrought Lock Negotiation. So as a strategic gambit, this operative can immediately perform a free shoot action, and you can change its order to engage to do so. The only thing that's been changed here, it now specifies when you do, and it's during the strategy phase. I love this change. It just tidies up so much, but otherwise it's still really, really good. Then you've got Brazen Killer. Whenever this operative incapacitates an enemy operative with its Wrought Lock Revolvers, roll 1d6 separately for each other enemy operative visible and within 2 inches of that enemy operative. If the result is higher than their APL stat, they are -1 APL until the end of their next activation. So completely unchanged. He effectively always gets boom headshots, and everyone gets so admiration. Like, they're just so impressed by his headshot skills that they're -1 APL. So a main tactic is end of the turning point, you move and dash him within 2 inches of someone. Then no matter what, if you're going first or second in the next turning point, you do Wrought Lock Negotiation and kill someone. So still very, very good. Amazing threat with this operative. Then you've got the Yaegir Gunner, who has the APM launcher, which can either fire armor piercing, breaching, or high explosive rounds. So it's all 5 attacks hitting on 4s. The armor piercing is 4-5 damage, heavy reposition only, with piercing 1 and bipod. The breaching rounds are 3-5 damage, blast 2, heavy reposition only with bipod. And the high explosive rounds are 2-4 with blast 3 inches, heavy reposition only, and bipod. He also has Fists, which are 3 attacks in on 4s, 2-3. So for the bipod special rule, whenever this operative is shooting with this weapon, if it hasn't moved during the activation or its counteraction, this weapon has the Ceaseless special rule. Note this operative isn't restricted from moving after shooting. So effectively, if it's in the right position, you shoot and then you can move away. Effectively unchanged, the bipod is just still really good for ceaseless rerolls. So otherwise great. Your gunner is positioning turning point 1, usually ending up on a vantage or a place where you expect your opponent to be, or get a shot on the next turning point, and that's usually deleting someone with the armor piercing round. But otherwise really good. Then you've got your Yaegir Iron Break. So it has a bolt revolver, which is 4 attacks, 8 on 4s, 3-5, range 8. Then an Entrencher, which is 3 attacks, 8 on 4s, 3-4. Then it has the Minefield special rule. So you have 5 minefield markers for the battle. On the reverse side, 3 of them are Hypex mines and 2 are blank. Set up all your minefield markers as if they were 1 item of equipment. Each must be set up reverse side down. Their specifics aren't revealed. More than 2 inches from other markers and access points, and more than 6 inches from your opponent's drop zone and your other minefield markers. Whenever this operative is readied and it's not within control range of enemy operatives, you can reset one of your flipped minefield markers that's within its control range, and you flip them back over again. So this is effectively unchanged. The range is now just reduced. It used to be 2 inches, so 2-inch bubbles. Now it's basically a 20mm marker with a 1-inch bubble, and he has to be closer to flip them. But you still set them up as normal, and you set them up during the equipment phase. So this is before people deploy. It's now not after people deploy, but before, but still really good. Because when you go to Hypex mines, whenever one of your reverse side mine tokens is both within enemy operatives control range and not within a friendly operative's control range, flip that marker over. If it's a blank, there's no effect. If it's a Hypex mine, you inflict 3 damage on the enemy operative and roll 1d6. If the result is less than the enemy operative's save stat, inflict additional damage on it equal to the dice result regardless of the result. If that enemy operative isn't incapacitated, it ends its action, if any. Even if the action's effects aren't fulfilled, if it cannot be placed, move the minimum amount to do so, regardless that marker isn't removed. So the big change here with Hypex mines, if they're a live mine, they also stop the action, because before you would just charge in, like let's say you were charging across a Hypex mine and it turned out to be lethal, you would take the damage, you take 3 damage, then d6 whatever was below your armor save, and then finish the charge. Now you can't do this, so Hypex mines are way more disruptive. So this is a slight change that if you are a returning Hernkyn Yaegir player, you need to be aware of. But you also have to factor in that these mines are basically one use only, because I don't think if you're in a position where your Iron Break is walking around flipping back markers, you've probably won the game already. Then you've got your Riflekin, who has the Magna Coil rifle with either the concealed, mobile or stationary profile. It also has fists, which are 3 attacks, 8 on 4s, 2-3. So for the concealed profile, it's 4 attacks, 8 on 2s, 3-3, devastating 3, heavy, piercing 1, silent and concealed position. Concealed position is you can only use this weapon for the first time it's performing a shoot action during the battle. So it's a once per game silent profile. Then the mobile profile is 4 attacks, 8 on 3s, 3-4, heavy, reposition only, piercing 1. And then the stationary profile is 4 attacks, 8 on 2s, 3-3, devastating 3, heavy, piercing 1. Then it's got the Weave Work Cloak, which is whenever an enemy operative is shooting this operative, you ignore the saturate weapon rule, and if you can retain any cover saves, you can retain 1 additional cover save, or you can retain 1 cover save as a crit save instead. This isn't cumulative with Vantage. So effectively, your sniper is unchanged. Now has a mobile profile, which is pretty good. And the other issue is it just has a once per game silent profile instead of a permanent silent profile, but most snipers have had this change. Overall, I think the trade-off with the mobile profile is pretty good, but you just have to be careful with how you use the Riflekin. It's just a very more situational piece before than it used to be with becoming like a sniper nest. Then you've got the Jaeger Tracker, who has the Sinner Hand Bow, which is 4 attacks, 8 on 4s, 3-5 silent. The Throwing Hatchet, which is 4 attacks, 8 on 3s, 3-5 range 6, limited 1, rending silent. And then the Hatchet, which is 4 attacks, 8 on 3s, 4-5. It has Pan-Spectral Visor, so whenever this operative is shooting an operative within 6 inches of it, if this operative weapons gain the Seek Light special rule, and the enemy operative cannot be obscured, so unchanged there, very, very nice. And then it has the Tracker ability, whenever this operative is shooting or fighting against an expended operative within 6 inches of it, that operative's weapons have the Punishing weapon rule. So Punishing is just a situational bonus because this operative has no innate way to get crits, but it's nice punishing expended operatives. Otherwise, the Jaeger tracker is unchanged. So then you have the Jaeger warrior who has a who can be armed with either the bolt revolver and plasma knife. So if you have the bolt revolver, it's 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, 3/5, range 8. With a plasma knife, which is 4 attacks, hitting on 4s, 3/5, lethal 5 up. Then you can also give it the bolt shotgun with fists. So the short range profile is 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, 4/4, range 6, or 4 attacks, hitting on 5s, 2/2 with the long range profile, and then fists, which are 3 attacks, hitting on 4s, 2/3. It has the Intrepid ability. You may note, if you're a Star Trek fan, that Voyager was also an Intrepid class. Anyway, whenever you spend a resourceful point on this operative, the following take precedence. If you add 1 to its APL stat, that lasts until the start of its next activation instead, or if it regains any lost wounds, it regains 4 instead. So this is actually a really nice buff, considering you're always taking 3 warriors at least. So with the APL change, it now means they're effectively free APL until you next activate, which means if you're like trying to contest points, you will have a free APL Jaeger warrior on the point just statically contesting, which is very good. And then it also just flat regains 4 wounds instead of D3+1. So if you need to heal up a warrior in a pinch, even if you're on 1 wound, you will immediately go up to 5 and no longer be injured. So that's a really nice change, a really good buff for the warriors. Then you've got faction equipment, so you've got plasma knives and they have changed. So friendly operatives have the following melee weapon. Note some operatives already have this weapon but with better stats. In that instance, use the better version. So the Bladekin and the warriors and the leader don't get better knives. So the plasma knife is now 3 attacks instead of 4, hitting on 4s, 3/5, lethal 5 up. Jaeger players will be a bit upset at this, but it's now everyone just gets knives instead of only like 5 operatives. So it's a fair trade-off, in my opinion, but you are now down to 3 attacks. Then you've got stabilized bolt shells. So up to twice per turning point, whenever a friendly operative is performing the shoot action and you select a bolt shotgun long range, you can use this rule. If you do until the end of the activation, improve the hit stat by 1 and add 1 to its damage stats. So you go from 4 attacks in on 5s, 2/2, to 4 attacks in on 4s, 3/3. It's fine, but I would never really take the stabilized bolt shells. You're not even going to reliably kill a 7 wound operative with a 5-up save in the open. So don't take stabilized bolt shells. Then you've got Firestorm bolt shells, which once per turning point, when a friendly Hernkyn Yaegir operative is performing the shoot action and you select the bolt shotgun short range, you can use this rule. If you do, until the end of that action, that weapon has the Blast 1 special rule. So this is okay for Into the Dark, I guess, but it's only once per turning point. I wouldn't generally take this. You may want to surprise your opponent, but I don't think it's that great. Then you've got the KV Ceramide Undersuit. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Hernkyn Yaegir operative, if the ranged weapon in that sequence has the blast or taunt weapon rule, you can reroll 1 of your defense dice, and other operatives aren't affected by devastating X unless they are the original target. So this is effectively unchanged, but oddly, their faction equipment is quite poor. You're always taking the plasma knives, but at least you have 3 universal equipments. They have lost climbing gear, which is very strange, but I guess they expect you to take ladders. But that does unfortunately mean on open you're taking plasma knives, usually the ladder, and then probably utility grenades and offensive grenades. It's just strange considering so many factions have like 2 to 3 pieces or sometimes even 4 pieces of really good equipment. Having a faction with only 1 useful piece of equipment is pretty depressing. But at least you'll just take knives, frags, or cracks and stuff like that. So always believe in ladder, believe in ladder. So for operative selection, where I recommend what sort of operatives you take for every game, you're going to have 2 fixed loadouts here, because you always take your loadout or your leader, completely fixed. You always take the Bladekin, the Bombast, the Gunner, the Iron Break, the Riflekin, and the Tracker. So that will leave you 3 warriors to take. Now, generally, I recommend going, depending on the opponent, 3 shotguns, most opponents. But if you want more melee output, 3 warriors with knives, and pistols is good as well. But you may also want a mix of 2 shotguns and 1 knife. But I find 3 shotguns is usually the best bet. Into elites, I think you probably still want the bolt shotguns, but knives aren't a bad choice there. It comes down to player preference at the end of the day. The only unfortunate thing is now it does mean you need a second box, but specifically you need to buy 3 to 5 extra warriors, because you may want to drop maybe the sniper if you don't like the sniper, but generally I'd still recommend taking the sniper. So I managed to get 3 extra Hernkyn Yaegers. So I have 3 built with shotguns and 3 built with knives. But unfortunately, it does mean the Hernkyn Yaegers are no longer a 1-box team. They used to be. It's kind of weird. They've done it now after they've been released separately. But it is what it is. But that's my 2 recommendations. Always build 3 warriors with shotguns. And then if you can, try and find 3 extra warriors to build with knives. And then you have everything to go to completely flip around with to your heart's content. Or magnetize. But I don't think these models are that easy to magnetize. For the kill team overview, Jaegers have lost some things in some regards, but overall they are very, very much amazing. They were already a really good kill team before at the end of 2nd edition. Now they are great. They are also classified or yassified for 3 years, so you're going to get 3 full years of competitive play with them from now, which is really, really good. The fact that everyone in the team has a free 3-inch reposition at the start of, well, a reposition of up to 3 inch, you know, within 3 inches of your drop zone. Everyone does that, and now everyone's moving 5 inches. That's very, very good. You've got this built-in damage negation, and this team is very good at still playing like a defensive turtle and just slowly winning, like slowly winning away. The only thing I haven't settled on is your TACOP game. Infiltration doesn't really suit this kill team the best, as does Seek and Destroy. You could probably still go gather surveillance, but it's going to be quite difficult to play with this kill team. Although Seek and Destroy is kind of okay with this kill team because of how resourceful points work. The other thing you need to remember is how resourceful point generation works. If you're in control range of enemy operatives, you don't count as one of the operatives counted towards generating your resourceful points. So that's something you need to remember as well. But then on the flip side, Hypex mines, if they're legit and do damage, will also stop an enemy operative's action. So especially if they're doing a reposition or charge action through our live Hypex mine, they're now stuck in the open potentially. So that's very, very good. Coupled in with your built-in net damage negation and 8 wounds, that is live everywhere. This kill team can be surprisingly tough to kill and is really good at dismantling 10 to 9 and higher operative kill teams. Elites they will struggle to into a bit, but I think this kill team is really, really good. They're in a great position now. They're way more mobile. They only need to focus over 3 points now, and ideally they only need to focus over 2 instead of worrying about 6. So your defensive playstyle works really well with this kill team. They're very good at just denying points and grinding out your opponent. They're so good now, and they're really threatening on Into the Dark because there's more open spaces for them to move around instead of being pinned in by doors and stuff. It is worth a mention that in Gallo Dark you can't open doors now, which is a downside, but the trade-off is everyone can do that free move, so that's worth mentioning there. But they're a really interesting team that are still quite vulnerable turning point 1, and you're probably going to find yourself, out of safety reason, usually taking this scouting option to give you a free strategic ploy during turning point 1, which is probably your super conceal ploy, which may mean you might become quite predictable, but generally that's how you're going to play. I still think they're in a really good spot and are quite fun. They still have all these like layers you need to figure out, but they're a very interesting and challenging team to play and play against, which I think is good design. But that's pretty much it for me today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of today's review. Did you find it useful, and what do you think of the changes to the Hernkyn Yaegers? And remember, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, and a affiliate link on games, and a Patreon if you want to give me some more support, and I'll quickly shout out my patrons. So for my adepts of the crew, I have Tom, Supercow, Stephen, Sam, Nick, Mr. Meatwad, Mercenary Q, Lucas, John Thomas, Graham, Fangzoo, Dave Meatsworld, Dad of Golden's, Chris, and then for my veterans of the crew, I have Sam, Joe, and Ryan. So thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me and helps support the channel. But yeah, I have way more videos to record, and I'm trying to maintain my voice, but the Jaegers are very interesting. I might finish them painting them up, but I think there's other teams I want to play first, but they're a very interesting team. Really, really good. I still think they're a good matchup into most of the meta right now. They're in a very strong position. But remember, no matter how short your opponent is, you always have a chance to win as long as you can roll a crit.